Galactic Archive Entry 99342-7A. Earth, a terrestrial world classified as an alpha-level hazard zone. Designated no contact by the Galactic Council due to extreme environmental hostility and an unusually predatory biosphere. Any incursion into Earth's ecosystem is highly discouraged. Survivors from previous expeditions have reported catastrophic losses. Proceed with caution. Extract from the Council's restricted files on the Sol system. Orbit above Earth, the Xener Dominion scout vessel, Creelvash. Captain Selvek of the Xener Dominion had always prided himself on his intellect. He was no fool, no reckless warlord chasing death and glory. He was a scholar, an explorer, and above all, a pragmatist. That was why he had ignored the Galactic Council's warnings about Earth. Extreme predation? Primitive life forms? Bah. We have shields, energy weapons, and advanced exosuits. What could possibly be so dangerous? Now he stood in the observation deck of his ship, peering down at the blue-green planet below. The sensors hummed, running scans of the surface, mapping out cities, biomes, and potential landing zones. Report, Selvek commanded, his deep voice steady. A younger officer, Korin, studied his data pad with a frown. Captain, there is an anomaly in our readings. The planetary ecosystem is far more complex than expected. Selvek raised a ridged brow. How so? Korin hesitated. Sir, the food chain here is broken. Selvek narrowed his eyes. Explain. Korin gulped. It should be simple, dominant apex predators rule ecosystems. But Earth has apex predators that hunt other apex predators. There is no true top of the food chain. Every species has a threat. It is an endless cycle of violence, adaptation, and escalation. Selvek scoffed. That is to be expected. Nature is brutal. Korin shook his head. Not like this. He tapped a control panel, bringing up holos of various Earth species. Selvek watched as image after image flickered past. Great feline hunters with teeth like daggers, reptilian beasts that had survived extinction, winged deathbringers with razor talons. Selvek leaned in. Show me the dominant species. Korin hesitated, then displayed an image of a human. Selvek frowned. That is disappointing. They are the most dangerous. Selvek gave a sharp laugh. That thing? It has no claws, no fangs. It is soft, bipedal, small. This is your apex species? Korin swallowed hard. Sir, it is worse than that. They are not the apex predator. Selvek's laughter stopped. What do you mean? Korin looked pale. Humans have no natural predators. But they hunt and kill everything else. A silence settled over the deck. Even the other officers had stopped to listen. Selvek exhaled. Prepare a landing party. Sir, I don't think. I said prepare it. Earth, Amazon rainforest, nightfall. The alien dropship descended silently through the canopy, its anti-gravity thrusters barely disturbing the thick jungle below. The Xener crew disembarked in full battle gear, plasma rifles primed, exosuits scanning for movement. Selvek led the team, eyes scanning the darkness. It was humid, hot, and alive with the sounds of creatures lurking unseen. Stay sharp, he ordered. The jungle was unlike anything they had encountered before. It was crowded, not just with life but with killers. Their scanners picked up hundreds of species moving around them, stealthy, agile, watching. Korin muttered, everything here is hunting something else. A sudden rustling made them freeze. A shadow moved. Something huge slithered through the underbrush. A serpent, longer than a Xener transport, coiled its muscular body around a massive feline creature and crushed it with a sickening snap. By the void, one of the soldiers whispered. A clicking noise came from above. Selvek looked up just in time to see dozens of glowing eyes peering back. An entire colony of creatures clung to the branches, silent, waiting. Then from the distance, a howl. Not a predator's. Something worse. A hunting call. Selvek turned. Formation. Now. The team backed together, weapons raised, but the jungle shifted. It wasn't the creatures they had to fear. It was the humans. A flash of movement, gunfire erupted. Selvek barely saw them. Shadows among the trees, precision shots taking down his soldiers before they could react. Korin screamed. Something tackled him and then he was gone. Selvek turned, firing blindly. Nothing. Then pain. A sudden, sharp snap at his leg. He crashed to the ground. Standing over him was a human. Selvek had fought in 100 battles. He had survived war zones across the galaxy. But he had never seen eyes like these, calculating, ruthless, amused. The human grinned, stepping closer. He reached for something, a device. A voice crackled from it. A second human spoke in their guttural tongue. The first human nodded, then looked at Selvek. And smiled. Welcome to Earth. Selvek's twin hearts pounded in his chest. The human standing over him wasn't particularly large, not in the way that Xener warriors measured strength. He lacked claws, natural armor, or energy shielding. But his presence was overwhelming. Selvek had seen ruthless warlords, merciless executioners, and tyrants who wielded cruelty like a weapon. But never had he faced a creature so utterly comfortable with violence. The human's lips curled in amusement as he knelt beside Selvek. His voice was low, quiet, almost conversational. You thought you were the apex predator, didn't you? Selvek's translator stuttered for a moment before finding a match. We are superior to all. He managed, his voice unsteady. The human chuckled. It was a soft sound, almost friendly. But Selvek realized with a slow creeping horror that it wasn't. This was the sound of a hunter toying with its prey. Without warning, the human lashed out. Pain exploded through Selvek's leg as the human pressed a boot down hard on his shattered limb. Selvek snarled in agony, but the human's expression didn't change. Superior? Really? Because right now, you look like a wounded deer waiting for the kill shot. Selvek's instincts screamed at him to fight, but he was pinned. Around him, his crew lay still, either dead or bound in tight restraints. His mind raced. This wasn't a military force. These humans didn't wear uniforms, nor did they carry standard-issue weapons. They were something else. They were predators, hunting for sport. Xener Dominion High Command, War Room. A holographic transmission flickered to life in the Xener Dominion's War Council chamber. Grand Warlord Threx of the Dominion leaned forward, his mandibles clicking in irritation. What do you mean we lost contact with Captain Selvek's team? He growled. The communications officer swallowed nervously. Sir, their last transmission was garbled, but we detected signs of a struggle. Then, silence. Threx exhaled slowly. Selvek was a cautious officer. He wouldn't let his arrogance cost him an entire squad. Unless, pull up Earth's planetary classification again, he ordered. A large display flickered to life, revealing the restricted council data on the planet. Alpha-level hazard zone. Extreme predation detected. Survivability, 6%, forces under 50 troops, /23%, forces over 10,000 troops with air and orbital superiority. Threx's blood ran cold. Survivability ratings that low were unheard of unless a world was plagued by biological horrors. But Earth wasn't a death world like Krelix, 7 or Zura Prime. It had no acid oceans, no spore-based contagions. Just animals. Animals that shouldn't be capable of wiping out trained alien soldiers. And yet Selvek was gone. Threx turned to his generals. We will not be humiliated. Prepare an extraction team. Armored divisions, gunships, mechanized walkers, deploy them all. A fleet of warships would descend upon Earth within hours. The Dominion would not lose to primitive mammals. Deep in the Amazon jungle, the Xener captives. Selvek sat against a thick tree, his breathing ragged. The humans had dragged him here, along with what was left of his team. Most of them were unconscious. A few were missing, taken elsewhere. His gaze shifted to the humans gathering nearby. They weren't soldiers, not in the conventional sense. Their weapons were mismatched. Some old ballistic rifles, some energy-based tech likely scavenged from prior conquests. They moved with purpose. They owned this terrain. Then the leader returned. Selvek had expected interrogation, torture, perhaps a public execution. Instead, the human crouched next to him and tossed him something. Selvek flinched as it hit the ground, a slab of cooked meat. His stomach twisted. Was it one of his missing crew? The human sighed, shaking his head. Relax. It's from an animal called a boar. Thought you might be hungry. Selvek hesitated. Was this a trick? A mind game? His instincts screamed at him, eat or you won't last. Cautiously he took a bite. His mandibles clenched in shock. It was good. The human smirked. See? Not everything's a threat. Selvek swallowed. Why are you keeping us alive? The human tilted his head. Because we're not savages. Selvek let out a bitter laugh. Your people attacked without hesitation. The human's expression darkened. And your people invaded our home. Selvek tensed. The humans didn't see this as an exploration mission. To them, the Xener had trespassed into their hunting ground. You made a mistake coming here, the human continued. A big one. Selvek exhaled, trying to steady himself. The Dominion will come for us. More ships. More weapons. You cannot win. The human just smiled. I know. Selvek blinked. Then why fight? The human's grin widened. Because it's going to be fun. Selvek's twin hearts pounded in his chest. The human's words weren't just a boast, they were a promise. Because it's going to be fun. That wasn't strategy. That wasn't military discipline. That was something far, far worse. Enjoyment. Selvek had never encountered an enemy that took pleasure in war. The Xener fought for dominance. The Krell fought for expansion. The Ornikai fought because their religion demanded it. But these humans? They hunted. The realization made his exoskeleton feel too tight. Earth's nightmares unleashed. The Xener Dominion's retaliation force was impressive by any standard. Thousands of armored soldiers. Heavy artillery. Gunships roaring through the atmosphere, scanning for heat signatures. Grand Warlord Threx himself stood aboard the command deck of the Dominion dreadnought Vraxkor. He watched through holographic feeds as his troops descended upon Earth like gods of war. And yet, something felt wrong. The soldiers touched down in dense jungle, but there were no enemy fortifications. No barricades. No obvious resistance. The humans were just gone. A Xener scout moved cautiously through the foliage, his rifle aimed forward. Thermal scans were useless. The jungle was too alive, heat signatures everywhere. The thick canopy disrupted motion tracking. Even the gunships had trouble picking out targets. It was as if the entire planet itself was designed to protect its inhabitants. Then the first scream erupted through the comms. The scout turned just in time to see a soldier vanish into the undergrowth. No warning. No gunfire. Gone. Another shout. Then another. Contact. Contact. Silence. A Xener lieutenant barked orders demanding visual confirmation, but nothing appeared on the scanners. Something was moving. Something fast. Then the jungle itself came alive. Predators among predators. A sniper's rifle cracked in the distance. A Xener trooper spun mid-step, his skull exploding in a mist of violet blood. The troops immediately fanned out, weapons raised, scanning, searching. But the humans weren't fighting a battle. They were hunting. One soldier turned, his eyes scanning the shadows. Then his head snapped back as a jagged spear burst from his throat. He collapsed, gargling as his killer melted back into the underbrush. A soldier in exo-armor fired wildly, his plasma rifle searing holes in the jungle. He saw something move. Then the ground beneath him collapsed. He barely had time to scream before he was dragged into a pit of sharpened stakes. The Xener weren't just losing. They weren't even getting a chance to fight back. Warlord Threx watches in horror. From orbit, Warlord Threx watched his army die. Not in a glorious battle. Not in an honorable duel. They were picked apart. One by one. Entire platoons disappeared. Bodies were never found. Gunships hovered over the carnage, desperately scanning for hostiles. Still nothing. Threx gritted his mandibles. This was impossible. His people had conquered countless worlds. How could a primitive species be doing this? Then a transmission came through. From the humans. The warlord's blood ran cold. A human figure appeared on the holofeed. He wasn't wearing military garb. No insignia. No armor. Just a simple hunting jacket and a cruel smirk. The same human that had captured Selvek. You brought an army into our jungle, the human said, voice calm. And now you're learning something very, very important. He leaned in slightly as if to whisper a secret. You're not at the top of the food chain anymore. The transmission cut out. The orbital bombardment began. Warlord Threx's mandibles clicked in frustration. His war fleet had burned countless worlds to ash. He had broken planetary defenses, shattered civilizations, and rewritten histories with conquest. And yet, here, on a backwater death world, he watched his invasion force crumble. The jungle had devoured them. The orbital feeds showed nothing but chaos. Heat signatures flickered and vanished. Gunships reported contacts on all sides. Plasma fire lit up the trees, but there was never a return volley, only more screaming. Threx snarled. Burn it all. His second-in-command hesitated. Warlord, our troops are still. Burn it all. The Vraxkor's weapons primed. Within moments, the jungle below erupted in fire. Massive plasma blasts turned trees into molten slag. Entire regions of the battlefield disintegrated into a wasteland. The once verdant jungle became a burning hellscape. Threx exhaled, mandibles twitching. Surely this was enough. Then the real horror began. Fire doesn't kill what it can't catch. At first, the Xener soldiers cheered as the flames roared. The jungle was gone. The battlefield was visible. No more hiding. A soldier turned, expecting relief. Instead, he saw something moving in the fire. Something big. A massive, hulking shadow stalked through the inferno. It should have been dead. It should have burned. Instead, it roared. A titanic, scaled predator, its body blackened but unbroken, lunged from the flames, ripping an armored Xener in half. Then the others came. The jungle had burned, but the hunters hadn't. Nightmare beasts, bigger than anything the Xener had ever seen, emerged from the scorched wasteland. Eyes glowing. Fangs dripping with alien venom. The Xener had feared humans. They hadn't considered Earth's other apex predators. The human counterattack. Through the smoke and chaos, the first human fighters reappeared. They hadn't been in the jungle. They'd been watching. Waiting. With the fire forcing the Xener into the open, the hunters struck. A sniper's rifle cracked. A Xener officer collapsed, skull shattered. Grenades rolled into clusters of troops, sending body parts into the air. Then the true terror descended from above. Weapons free, boys. Let's give 'em hell. Human dropships thundered down. Exosuit-clad warriors plummeted from the sky, guns blazing. The Xener had expected resistance. They hadn't expected an ambush from their own massacre. Plasma rounds tore through them. The jungle was burning, but the humans were laughing. One soldier stabbed a Xener through the throat with a knife, grinning. "Man," he said, kicking the body away. "I love this planet." Warlord Threx's last mistake. Threx stared in horror. His army, thousands of elite soldiers, was being hunted like vermin. He turned to his officers. "Retreat," he snarled. "We need to." Boom. The bridge shook. A human missile screamed through the dreadnought's hull, sending bodies flying. Threx roared in fury. Where are they firing from? The answer came as the hull of his ship was ripped open. A single human battlecruiser emerged from behind a moon. It had been waiting. The Terrans had let the Xener land, let them deploy, let them think they had control. And now they were closing the jaws. The human captain's voice echoed through the dreadnought's failing comms. "You picked the wrong planet. No survivors." Threx's final orders never came. The human ship fired again. The Vraxkor, the Dominion's proudest dreadnought, was cut in half. Below, in the jungle, the remaining Xener were slaughtered. Some by humans. Some by Earth's real monsters. None made it home. Epilogue. A warning to the galaxy. The Council's emergency broadcast went out across the stars. A single transmission. A grainy image of Earth. A voice, shaken, whispered, "We thought we were the apex predators. We were wrong." The end. They thought Earth was just another conquest. Turns out they were just another meal. Do you want more stories like this? Subscribe now.